It's me.
Okay, there we
Hello.
go. Weird. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to
Hey!
Monday. We made it. Another happy week in America. Here we are. Everything's fine.
At the office is a Breitbart, maybe, but
Everybody's fine. Everything's fine. We're gonna get right into the show today. All right.
We're all alive.
We got lots of stuff to talk about.
is there
Get right
anyone
into it.
alive out there?
We'll get right into it. All right. So let's
That's
do
a
it.
Springsteen song, but I don't want to go there.
That's why I said it.
All right. Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, November 14th, 2016.
I'm Michael Lagello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
I'm Eklund, and that's the way it is. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we are back after another fun-filled weekend of hockey to come to you now and discuss some things happening. But we have to start off with some business, hockey business, because we're now talking Olympics, and the moment is at hand. The IOC has sent what's his name again?
Antonio Samaranch?
No, Renee
Fassel.
Hey, Fassel.
Fassel. Dinner once when I went to Kevin Allen and I had dinner with Renee Fassel. Very nice guy. And Renee is here, and he is on his way on Wednesday. Well, at least he might be here, not here yet, but Wednesday he will be. I'm sure he's here. Doesn't he live in Canada? Anyway, all right, he's close enough. He's going to be here on Wednesday.
Like the IOC's everywhere. We don't know.
Right, the IOC is everywhere. They're like an all-knowing.
Wherever there are prostitutes, the IOC is there.
Oh.
What?
Just
Anyway, just ignore that. Please. There's no mute button. All right, there's no mute button that can fix things like that. Anyway, all right, so he's in town. Wednesday he's going to meet with Bill Daly, who's, the official NHL badass when it comes to negotiations. And they are going to sit down and discuss this thing and figure out what the hell to do about the Olympics in South Korea coming up next year. So basically 14 months from now. This is really tight. I mean,
It is tight. That's not a lot of lead time anymore.
No. It's not. Now, to be fair, people are saying, well, how will they come up with another team? It's not hard to do. The USA hockey program has its own program going as it is. All the World Juniors, which you'll be attending, Russ, that's basically, this will become an out branch of that to a degree.
maybe a 20 and under tournament for those countries.
Right. So it's not like this is impossible, but
Look, I will say this. There are a lot of good hockey players still not under NHL contract.
Right. That's true.
It's going to be a cross between an under 20 tournament and something like the Spangler Cup, where you have independent professional players. Now, the interesting thing will be if the KHL decides they'll let their players go, and if Alex Ovechkin decides, if the NHL doesn't decide to go, and Alex Ovechkin continues on with his threat to go no matter what. That might be the only way the Russians ever win an Olympic gold, is to have him play against a bunch of young kids.
I don't think Ovechkin would go. I just think that's talk. But I also think that you might see some players like, U.S. players come out of retirement and play. I mean, if they're not currently – I mean, here's the thing. Here's an interesting thing that would come up. I thought about this because I've always been 95% it's not happening. Let's say you're an older player and you're in your UFA season and it's an Olympic year. You might wait. You might just play in the Olympics and then just sign after the Olympics, after they see you could still play.
Which we saw the World Cup of Hockey did good things for players. I agree with that. There was a lot of good that came of it.
So you think Colin Greening will go and play for Team USA?
Yeah, I mean, you'll see some players like that say, hey, agents might say, oh, hold this for a minute. You could be on a world stage here. Don't sign in the offseason. Just practice, get ready, work out with your buddies, and play in the Olympics.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, it makes plenty of sense, I think. And I mean, it's really interesting. I just watched the there's a great documentary I'm sure a lot of you in Canada saw, on Remembrance Day, that was playing up on Sportsnet in Canada. And it was because I have, Canadian television here in the United States. Don't ask how. But anyway, I was watching it, and there's a really great story of during the war, of right after the war, of that group of Canadians the Canadians that they put together that wasn't a professional group because they couldn't go professionals, and they were all like war buddies, and they were this team that got, it was basically the Miracle on Ice for Canada. They put together this team of just guys who were playing in men's leagues essentially. One was the third string practice goalie for the Maple Leafs. They were all and they went over and they were getting their ass kicked, but then they went over and they actually won the Olympics.
So sort of like the Mystery Alaska team that beat the Rangers.
Very much like that. Yeah. And it happened in the 40s in Canada when they won the gold medal. I mean, it's kind of like, it was crazy, but it was the whole professional versus non-professional Olympic thing. And when hockey was introduced in the Olympics the first time. So basically Canada put it together within a month. Like it was everybody thought the pros were going to be able to go, and then they couldn't, and Canada had to put it together quickly. It's we're not looking at a month here, but let me throw out another thing, because I talked to a lot of people this morning about this to try to get to the bottom of this. And Sportsnet came out with that story, which was kind of frustrating because I was on the same path. But what I heard was a little bit different than what they heard. I mean, I did hear he's coming on Wednesday, obviously, but I also don't think that this is an all or nothing game that's being played right now. And I think that's what is sort of being portrayed. Like in the past, they've given $10 million for insurance and travel.
Right.
I don't think that it's not, and right now the NHL says they're offering nothing, right? No money. Okay.
Right.
So there's like a big difference between that. I mean, and it's odd for Renee, who's a very important person and also very busy, to come to New York offering nothing. Like, I'm going to show up in New York and I have nothing to offer. All right, I believe that we're looking at a negotiation that's going to happen
well,
here.
Sure, there's definitely going to be a negotiation, but right now the NHL is literally holding all the cards, because
that's where that you might think that, but you also might think that the Democrats were going to win the president. I mean, there's certain things that
This is different.
At first glance, it looks like the NHL is holding all the cards, but honestly,
it wasn't fixed. No, just kidding.
The Olympics go on with or without the NHL.
Right.
They will have the ratings will be better with the NHL players, but not enough that will matter to them. This actually, why they're coming in with nothing, I believe, is they think this is more important to the NHL than it is to them.
Well, they're wrong, and I think that I don't think that I know that Bill Daly and Gary Bettman are at a sports conference in Toronto today, and they've been talking a little bit about the Olympics and a little bit about the World Cup. I mean, Bettman was effusive in his praise of the World Cup. It was the best on best tournament ever. I mean, that could be a line of BS. No,
it's not. I mean, it was the best on best tournament ever, but that's not the point of the Olympics.
What I'm saying is they're trying to force the IOC into concessions, into more access, into paying for insurance, all these things, and the IOC is not going to do that unless the NHL has some leverage. And right now, I don't think there's enough leverage there, and I think if the NHL doesn't get concessions from them, they're going to say, okay, we'll have fun with the Spangler Cup in South Korea. I think that's the road it's going down.
Right, but then you're making my point, because if the NHL doesn't have the leverage, then the control is not theirs. I mean, the control is.
No. Listen, it's at the end of the day, the NHL has to agree to send players, so they have all the cards. They have the players.
They have the players, yes.
And that's everything. Because, all right, here's the potential thing. I'm trying to find out who it looks like BBC has the rights, but I don't know who has the U.S. rights. I'm assuming it's still NBC.
It's NBC.
It is NBC. Okay.
Which is a big part of this.
So let's picture this now. So let's say NBC decides they're going to kick in their schedule like they normally do.
Right.
Just before the Olympics, and they start up their Saturday game. Well, now NBC will own hockey anyhow, because for the Olympic hockey watchers, they'll have Olympic hockey on MSNBC, and then they'll have the NHL on main NBC. So NBC doesn't lose anything here. So NBC is not a big player in this, in the sense that they have nothing to lose. They own everything.
And the difference in ratings between the Olympic,
they don't want to compete with themselves, though, Russ. I mean, they don't want to.
Why not? You would have a
you don't want to compete with your reason they don't want it. They very much, if this was,
they won't be playing at the same time.
Well, no, if the NHL doesn't go, then the NHL will be playing at the same time the Olympics. Right?
No. There's a time difference. You won't be having a 1 o'clock game.
But that's all the more so because the time in the middle of the day is not the big. I mean, the big thing for NBC is the prime time. That's when it matters, right? So it's not
right. But
the ratings, but they're going to be competing directly with their own Olympics with NHL hockey.
I heard some thought to the fact that NBC would be an interested party in the sense that they would pay like some things that the IOC might not be willing to pay. But the problem with that is the difference in the ratings between what the NHL players at the Olympics, the ratings that they would get, and the difference if NHL players don't go is not going to be worth the millions of dollars that they would have to pay out in insurance and whatever else they're looking for.
It's not about ratings with this. It's not and when it comes to the NHL. Okay, now, remember you got to put the NHL and NBC. They're basically on the same side. Okay, so the NHL and the NBC are basically on the same side. They are because NBC has this huge long contract with the NHL, so they're trying to grow the game.
We're also talking about players and the Players Association and Donald Feeder. Right. That is the other party that is not necessarily on the same side as the other two.
Well, the players always want to go to the Olympics, right? That's the bottom line. The players
unless they decide. Do you think the players are going to vote? Let's just say Renee Fassel were to walk in and give them the same offer, and the NHL says we should take this offer. Do you think the players would take it? I say they wouldn't.
If the same offer of what?
Of nothing.
Of what they've done in the past, $10 million.
No, what they have on the table right now, like as of today, the offer of nothing.
The offer of nothing. No.
Okay.
So that's not good.
There is a limit to what the players will take, whether they want to go or not.
Right, but I think Mike might be onto something with NBC stepping up and putting some of that money in there. And I think so say the IOC comes in and says, listen, we don't have all that much. Maybe the last couple of Olympics, people have been losing money. We've been trying our best to keep this thing going best we can, but we don't have all that kind of we can pay for the travel, but not the insurance. We can pay for the insurance, but not the travel. All right, so now you're looking at the insurance is way more expensive than the travel. So say we've got $8 million in insurance and $2 million in travel, I think it's like more like $1 million in travel and $9 million for insurance when it all comes down to it. If it's even $1 million, right? So say that's what it is. So you have that, and now suddenly, okay, we'll pay for the travel. You're not the insurance. The insurance is just a matter of renegotiation for the NHL to go to their insurers and say, okay, we need you guys to pick up the Olympics next year. How much more is that going to be? So it's not a matter of them buying a new insurance policy. They just have to amend theirs and the ones they currently have. That's not going to be as expensive as it would be for the International Olympic Committee to reinsure these guys from scratch from day one. Mm-hmm. So, but you have to ask yourself, the real thing is does the NHL want to go? Does the NHL want to do this? Right? That's I think. Because I think financially, I don't think this is about the money, because I think that the money I think the IOC will come with something, and the NHL and NBC will be able to make up the difference if they want to go.
Well, it is about the money because, again, John Tavares got hurt last time, and it cost his team a lot.
That's not the money. That's not about the money.
But it does. You have to. It's
about the impact long term, right?
Well, but you basically have to tell a team, we're making X amount, and this is why it's worth the risk. Otherwise, the team may not want to risk having their player be there. And then that's where the players fight it again.
Well, see, that's where I do agree, but the players aren't going to be the ones fighting it. That's going to be, the players are always going to want to go. So that's.
Yes. Well, the funny thing is the players in whole either want to go or want the 2 weeks vacation. So that's why they're motivated. But again, it's whether this is beneficial for the sport. You're talking about games at weird times. You're talking about traveling halfway across the world. You're talking about the risk of the best players to injury. And it's not like Sochi. It's not like Vancouver. This is different. And then we know that in 4 years they're probably going to go in China. So I don't know whether everything everything lines up in terms of the NHL going to South Korea. I right now, I think it's less than 50-50 that they go.
Oh, I think it's a lot less. I think here's the other thing. And look, nothing's impossible because these are negotiations. We know that. But me as a hockey fan, if I have a choice to watch the NHL on NBC or watch a luge, I'm going to watch the NHL on NBC, right? But if I don't have a choice, am I just watching luging because I'm a hockey fan? I don't know about that. Probably not. I mean, unless I'm home. So I don't think the crossover matters to NBC. I think even if they walk away from these negotiations, like let's just say the NHL says it's not happening, NBC really doesn't lose anything. They really.
Well, you're right. And chances are, though, what'll happen is the NHL won't be on NBC Sportsnet during that period of time because NBC uses all those networks for.
I don't know about that. I
covering the Olympics.
They have a contractual agreement with the NHL.
Right, but they're gonna. So the problem is, I mean, they're going to have to that's another reason why NBC ponies up the money here because the NBC does not want to take the. I mean, they're putting things on USA or putting things on, the home cooking network or the other networks that they own.
That's what they're going to do anyhow.
Which they usually do, but NBC Sports Network, this whole one of the reason they have the Olympics is to promote NBC Sports Network. Right? They want people to go to that station.
Would be able to do that.
They want people to go to that station and see the Olympics. If people go to that station and see the NHL, they're not going to be happy. And because most will be happy, we'll be fine. But most of the people, the NBC Sports Network having the Olympics on for those 3 weeks or whatever is vitally important to NBC.
I mean, there was other programming on CNBC, MSNBC while the Olympics was going on. So
not at night.
No, at night.
No. I mean, I don't remember that ever being the case.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, at night. There definitely were some at night. I was watching.
Yeah, I was
watching tennis on USA as an example.
They wanted to drive at night. They wanted to drive traffic to the main network. The Olympics would be on NBC, but you could very easily put hockey on NBC, SN, or one of the lower channels.
Yeah, but they don't want to do that. They want to drive people
to the Olympics,
to the sports network and the main network. I mean, those are just.
I think here's the only flawed part of that, Ek. Just as an example, while I wasn't watching much of the Olympics, I watched every bit of the tennis coverage on USA. I did.
Right.
And so but that's the same thing as this. All they would say is, if you like hockey, go to NBCSN. If you don't, then stay with us. It's the same thing. I rarely turned on the main channel for anything, but I was watching tennis on USA.
And you're right. To your point, I mean, I didn't watch anything on any network. Like I watched everything
on the app,
streamed from my phone to the television, whatever, when I wanted to watch it. So that exists, right? We're not everybody, as we've learned recently.
No. That's true.
There's a lot of other people in the country who still don't do things quite the same way. So where it matters that it's on NBC, it matters that it's on NBCSN, which is. NBCSN, remember, the whole thing is the reason I'm convinced the reason they got the Olympics was to make NBCSN as big as ESPN. That's been their goal the whole time, right? They're competing with ESPN. It's a tough thing to do, but they're making inroads on it. I mean,
right. But here's the other thing that we're not talking about. I only scratched the surface on it. Now this is the next layer. So you're a team that may or may not want to send your best players, but now we're only 14 months out to book my arena for different concerts or whatever while the NHL is not there. That's not giving them a lot of time to do that either.
Well, I remember this was back at the beginning of the season that someone saying that this was abnormally close to make a decision, that this decision should have probably been made over the summer, and that they've moved this forward sort of to hold a knife to the throat of the IOC, to force them to give them consent.
Or to hold a knife to the throat of the NHL. You see, I think you guys are looking at it from the wrong angle. From what people I talked to today,
I think the NHL's ready to walk, Yak. I
that's what you don't.
Threatening.
They're at least putting up the front that they're ready to walk.
They are putting up the front that they're ready to walk.
We don't know that they're ready to walk, but they're appearing that way. That's true.
But okay. Let's not, like, the World Cup of Hockey did them no favors for this. Okay, if the World Cup of Hockey was a resounding success ratings wise and all this stuff,
that's what hurts these negotiations from the Olympic side, because they already made their money on the World Cup.
No, it's not about this is the reason they play these extra games. I mean, the money that was made was split up amongst the players.
The players make pretty good coin. They do.
In the World Cup of Hockey, it was not that much.
It was like, to a young player, it's still a lot.
Yeah, but most of those players on that
$1,000.
But most of the players on that team are making that a shift.
No, but everybody gets it.
Right here,
we'll take it. But I think this being so close to the point at which they have to decide, which is probably like within the next couple weeks, right? Within that period of time, this negotiation, him just coming to the NHL for the first time now, okay, tells me that one of two things is true. Like, either the NHL knows they're going and is just trying to get the money out of them, or the NHL knows they're not going. So it's not. So to me, it's one of those two things, right? And it's not. So what I think the Olympic Committee is doing is there, and the IOC is sitting there saying, we think that they really want this. And the IOC thinks that the Olympics is the greatest thing in the world. So the IOC is by offering nothing and going there, and we're going to go with something. They're going to show up with something. But so far they've offered nothing, and they've given them no indication that they're going to bring anything.
They'll offer money, but they're offering less than last time because, let's face it, the Olympics aren't what they used to be. That's the
right, and that's going to be their argument. And they're going to say, you guys get a lot out of this marketing wise, and may have to throw some of those other things you're talking in, Mike, which like all those, whether it's merchandising or whatever.
I think I will say this, and then I think we should go to a different subject. I don't think there is anything that gets gained except for, like, the last Olympics, TJ Oshie gained something, and maybe one other player gained a contract. I don't think the Fairweather fans that watch the Olympic hockey even watch NHL hockey. They like Olympic hockey for a reason. That's their scope is they will watch that. They're tuned in for that. The minute it ends, they never carry over to the NHL. The NHL never gets any kind of carryover ratings-wise or otherwise. They really don't.
It's cotton candy is what it is. Yeah. It's great. It's great when you're eating it, but then you get a stomach ache probably a couple hours later. I mean, I honestly, I've
never gotten a stomach ache from cotton candy, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, in the moment, it's exciting, but honestly, I don't think that it's really going to be beneficial for the league to go. I've always been against it. I remember back, Russ, do you remember back 92 with Team Canada, the team that won a silver medal? Lindros played on that team when he was still in the midst of the whole Quebec thing. Joey Juneau, when he was in a contract holdout. I think Dave Hannon was on that team.
Dave Hannon, yep.
I mean, okay, you can put together a team that's going to be entertaining without the NHL. So go down that road. Do not interrupt the season for a meaningless tournament.
Hey, look, nobody watches more Olympic hockey than me. If it's on, I watch every second of it, so I'm not going to lie there. But it just seems like they could walk away from this one and not really get hurt here because the time zone factor is going to be huge.
I think it is to us and to a lot of people, but there are places where it's not. And there are people who really just will watch it at night and they don't care. Like anybody who's on Twitter and social media and all that stuff, the time zone thing's a huge issue, right? So you sit there and you say, okay, it's impossible to not know what's happening in these games.
No, you're gonna know.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people who aren't, and I think that there is still something to the Olympics that it's always like when I can tell you as a person who's covered this sport, like when I tell people what I do for a living and I talk to people, I meet people and they say, what do you do? And I say, well, I cover the NHL. HockeyBuzz.com is my website. I've covered the Olympics in the past. That is the moment when everybody like, whoa, you cover the Olympics. Like covering the NHL doesn't mean anything.
That's only to the casual fan.
But those are the people that's why you go to the Olympics is my point. Like my point is you go to the Olympics for those casual fans. Like you don't go you do the World Cup of Hockey for fan service for what we currently have, right? But you go to the Olympics for the casual fan, and that's what you want. And that's why, the casual fan who sees like these players, especially with all the stars we have now, like, don't you want Austin Matthews out in front of everybody? Don't you want all these? I mean,
there's not going to be a carryover effect. It's going to be a 2-week window, and after the 2 weeks, they go back to their regular lives. That's the thing.
I mean, this is the thing. There was a carryover, a minor carryover in 2 of the Olympics, 2002 in Salt Lake, 2010 in Vancouver. Why? They were in North America. There was not much of a carryover other than in the Czech Republic where the team flew to Prague to be.
Of course, so you can't the World Cup of Hockey would have been better if it was North America versus Canada at the end too.
Well, not that. It was because the games were playing in Nagano and nobody was watching. I was watching that game between the Czechs and the Canadians at 2:00 in the morning. Nobody was watching.
Yeah, but a lot of people watched that the next day, the next night. I mean, that was also before. That was before Twitter and everything too. I mean, things are different. Obviously, I just think you guys are underestimating the power that the Olympics have. Like I think that, and I still think that they have a power that the NHL wants, and they have something that the NHL sees. And I know otherwise the NHL just would have bowed out of them by now.
Okay, here's my argument. So in 2010 we had the most. At that time the most watched Olympic final in 30 years. Right.
Right.
Why didn't that carry over into that season's television ratings right after that? It didn't.
Well, you could argue it did. I mean, the NHL had incredible NHL television ratings have gone up every year until this one, right? This year ratings are down, I think, but before this, the last several years they've gone up every year. I mean, and it's not a matter. You can sit there and say, okay, maybe that's, the ratings are what they are because of this or that. And, we talked about that before, but I think that ratings have gone up, and whether it's as a result of the Winter Classic being a big thing, or whether it's a result of the Olympics or whatever it is, I mean, there's so many different reasons the ratings could go up or down. I mean, this Olympics, you could set up a potentially really incredible matchup between USA and Canada by adding those North American players back into the fray, right? And then you really are. I think there would be excitement for that.
Well, we'll see. I know Russ will be watching ice dancing.
No, I mean, I really think that there's a. I mean, I know. I just think if the my instincts are. They could be totally wrong, but my instincts are talking to people. If the NHL was going to not go, they would have said they're not going by now. All right. The fact that they're still talking and still trying to get money means that they want to go. That NBC wants them to go.
Maybe players are putting them up to it too. Like
the
they're
players
like, hey,
want them. The players want them to go. Right. So I think that they're going to try to make this work. And I don't.
I think they will go if they get every or most of the concessions, but I don't think the IOC will give them every or most of the concessions. So I think in the end, they're not going.
All right. We'll find out. We'll find out soon. Let's move on to other news. We have some news in Phoenix, right, today in Arizona. Mike, what's going on there?
Yeah, there was an announcement that a new arena, 14, there's not all the facts out, but a 14,000 seat arena will be built. It sounds like from the description of the area, it's going to be closer to where they think the fan base for the Coyotes is, which is Scottsdale, which is not east of Phoenix but west of Phoenix. They're saying it's like in the Valley of the Sun, but they're saying that this is obviously they're moving out of Glendale, which I think has been a disaster. But it sounds encouraging. I mean, there's the Coyotes have come out with this. The league has sort of gone along with this, and if 14,000 seat arena is not usually the capacity of an NHL arena, but I think if they put it in the right place, I think this can work in Arizona. I think the league is going to the nth degree to make things successful there. They do not want to move. Yeah,
this is it. I even asked it on Facebook today. I said, "Is this the one?" Because they've been here, they've been there, they've been everywhere. Is this the final arena where this is going to make it happen? And people are saying yes. So this is what we'll find out. Like, I'll keep an open mind to it. But I got to tell you, this is the last roundup for the Coyotes. If this doesn't work out, the Coyotes aren't going to work out.
Now, I don't know. Yeah. They didn't make it part of the announcement because we'd heard talk of an arena being built in concert alongside or with like Arizona State University, whether that's part of this mix or it's a completely separate entity and it's their building. If it's their building, then all the revenue comes to them, all the revenue for concerts and things of that nature. Right. But they're also competing in a market like Phoenix with the Glendale arena still, and with the arena that now I don't know whether the Phoenix Suns are part of this or it's just the Coyotes.
I haven't read that they are, so I don't know.
This could be a completely separate building, and in a market like Phoenix. Now, Phoenix is I think top 10 population in the U.S.
It is. It's in the 7th or 8th area.
Yeah, so I mean, they can accommodate 2 or 3 buildings.
That's assuming that they put the games on at 5 o'clock and they had the early bird special.
But I think this is a good. I know that there are people north of the border that are pissed off that they, a lot of people want that team moved, want them the second team in Toronto. It's not going to happen.
No, it's a good team. It's a good situation.
Good team. They have a lot of good players. We'll see if this works. I mean, look, I'll play revisionist history. I'm more positive for this than I was the Barclays Center. I pointed out what I thought the flaws were in the Barclays Center. And we had people who would come on the show and say, I'm wrong and I'm crazy and whatever. And now we see that there really are big flaws in the Barclays Center. And
really big flaws. No, for sure.
So this one at least is not going to have those kinds of flaws.
But can I throw out something? 14,000 seats is not a.
Well, that's because they can't fill 20,000 seats there.
Yeah, but you can't make a living with the NHL with a 14,000 seat arena.
They're going to have to try. I mean, that's
That's the thing. I mean, it's going to obviously have a ton of, boxes in it and all that stuff they're going to sell. Maybe they just think
to create demand when you make it smaller, and we'll see if they can create a demand.
Well, I mean, I can just give you this as an example. Maybe this is meaningless, but whatever. I went to a Arizona-Toronto game 3 years ago. One ticket, bought it through the team, through Ticketmaster. 3 years. They've been emailing me to buy season tickets. They got me on the list, and they continue to contact me.
I have that with a bunch of teams too.
After buying one game. I mean, that shows the sort of the desperation of that organization to get people in.
Well, it's just marketing. I mean, they're a good marketing team.
Yeah, it's marketing. I mean,
they also send press releases more than any other team in the world too. I mean, they really want to get their names out there.
There's no doubt. I mean, look, they'll get this arena, and they'll get another 3 or 4 years of grace, hoping that they pull in the attendance. But if 3 years down the line they're not selling out, this discussion will come up again, guaranteed.
Yeah. No, that's true.
And it's not because of us. It's just economics. It's just the way it is.
Right. All right. So, I think 14,000 is. I really think that they should be building at least a 17,000 seat arena. That's the only thing I worry about. This population base is big, and okay, if you're gonna, I guess you could. It's always hard to price things out, but I guess if you say, okay, the hockey fans are there. There's less of them, but they're willing to pay more, then maybe that's what they're thinking of. But it's kind of a strange way of doing it, because the idea is growing the sport, and you can't grow a sport in a 14,000 seat arena. I mean, that's like, to me, that's
more people too. For 2,000 less people, I could have like 2 less people, 3 less people on the payroll that day too.
Well,
that's true.
The press release from the Coyotes indicates that the building will be 16,000 plus.
Okay, well that's okay.
Well, then there you go. That's all.
Well, that's okay. Then I feel better about it. That's fine. Yeah. Then I retract everything I said. 16 is a good number.
And it's a facility that they're building, they're building an additional 4,000 seat multi-sport arena in concert with Sun Devils Athletics. So it is in concert with Arizona State. So that makes a bunch of sense.
It's got a lot better chance. Like I said, I think it's got a much better chance.
All right. Before we move on to the Rangers, I want to discuss the game that took place last night between the Canadiens and the Blackhawks. And I don't know if you guys saw this game. I mean, I was looking forward to it.
I just saw a few highlights. I
saw the ridiculous Patrick Kane goal that he scored. I mean,
that was an incredible goal. And Taves made a great play on it too. But these are the two best teams in the NHL ready to meet. I've got my popcorn. I'm ready to go. I'm going to sit and watch this game. And
why do I know where this is going?
And who do we put in goal?
Al Montoya.
I mean,
he's got to play sometime, Mac.
Yeah, he's got to play sometime. But if you're the best team in the NHL and you're facing the second best team in the NHL and you're afraid of losing, yeah, sure, put Al Montoya in and go ahead and lose. Which is what they did.
It's a regular season game.
They're just going with the rotation, Eck. I don't think
they're not going with the rotation. Montoya's played like 3 times.
Well, that's the thing. They looked at it and said they may have mapped this out 2 months ago, for all we know, and said
it was the second of back-to-back games. Montreal played at home against Detroit. They're going to put Carey Price in at home, and they don't.
No, I don't know. I disagree. But put Montoya in at home against Detroit. That makes all the sense in the world.
No.
Put your best foot forward and try to prove that you are the best
team. Carey Price
at
home. I get that.
They want Carey Price at home. They want Carey Price against a divisional opponent when top 3 teams in a division make the playoffs. And the game is great. It's against the best team or the top-rated team in the league, or one of the top-rated teams in the league. It's a road game.
Right. This game
I don't know.
Counts like 60% less than the other game. That's really the reality in the standings.
I was dumbfounded on Saturday night after the Leafs beat Philadelphia in Toronto that Mike Babcock, instead of playing Jonas Enroth, which he had done in both back-to-back situations this year, went back to Anderson in the second of back-to-back games.
Well, I think he saw Anderson had a good game against the Flyers.
But the thing was, the team was exhausted, and by the third period, they fell completely off. So
yeah, but you want to try to get him on any kind of roll you can. In my mind, I think that's why he did it. I mean, you're trying to get him on a roll. But before we go there, this comes back, and I'm not going to make this a Michel Therrien ripping fest, which I could easily do.
I don't think this has anything to do with Therrien this time. I don't.
It does, but I'm not going to go there.
It doesn't.
It does, because it's once again, it just shows this guy for his true colors. But I'm not going to go there.
No, now that Carey Price is healthy, you don't think they have this mapped out as to when they're going to put Al Montoya in?
Whenever we're afraid to lose, we're going to put Al Montoya in. That we're going to have to.
No, stop it.
That's what it says to me. I mean, when a guy is playing so few games,
you had a tinfoil helmet on when you were watching this game. Clearly,
no. And Montoya played well. All right, but the thing is, this is like wasn't this? Am I wrong with that? This is his first game back after being shelled by Columbus.
Yes.
Put him in the United Center against the Blackhawks.
He's the backup goalie. He
does play sometime.
Oh, come on. You know better than that, Russ. Think about it for a second. I mean, you got a guy who gave up 10 goals. You gave him no confidence. You left him in forever, which we all agreed was wrong. And now you're putting it. And then his next game he goes to play against, he's going to go into the United Center. He did well. I mean, granted, he did well.
The next night.
I know, but the next game, give him another game in there where he can have success. He's now lost the last 2 games, so it's like
the psyche and the sensitivities of Al Montoya are secondary to the end game of the Montreal Canadiens, which is to win and to keep Carey Price healthy. That's all Michel Therrien cares about. Honestly, if they had to cycle in Zach Fucale,
that is all Terry. You're right. You just nailed it. That is all Michel Therrien cares about. Keeping Carey Price healthy, because if he doesn't keep Carey Price healthy, he's out of job.
Right.
So he's going to keep Carey Price. He's going to keep Carey Price healthy all the time, and that's what he's got to do.
Terry's job is safe now for this season again. It is.
Oh, I know.
So I don't think it's about the job now. I think this is just the prime directive of the organization.
No, he's always worried about losing his job. But he's doing so. I mean, no, and there are some coaches and general managers that just do, like Brian Burke never cares about losing his job. He does his thing the way he does it. And then there are some people who are like Dean Lombardi who care about losing it. Even though Lombardi's won all these championships, he's still there are survivalists out there. Okay, people that really just survive above everything else. And then there's some who have principles that stick on it and they realize that I'm doing the wrong. I might be doing something that really kills me. Like you often see with coaches who won't bring up guys. This happened to Maloney in Phoenix. He did a great job of building that team. He didn't make any desperate moves. He could have brought up guys earlier and tried for quicker success, but he didn't. And then he loses his job, right? Which I thought was wrong at the time.
Hey, maybe they did rock, paper, scissors before the game and Price was the paper. You don't know.
Yeah. Let's forget Therrien for a second, okay? Let's debate one other thing, because we've had this debate, because it's hard for me. I know that the guy rubs me the wrong way, and I try my best, and I'm a Canadiens fan. I've been a Canadiens fan my whole life. All right. Anyway, so let's just start right there. So let's say the concept of when to play a backup goalie. I get always pissed off when you play a backup goalie against a good team, because you're going to lose that game anyway.
Okay, but here's the thing. That. So last night, the New York Rangers played the Edmonton Oilers, who right now, record-wise, is a very good team. Who was in?
Right.
Tell me who was in that.
For the Rangers?
Yeah.
Ronta, wasn't he?
Antti Ranta, the backup.
Right. And I mean, this is the argument.
Same theory. It's the exact same.
I know, and I'm saying take Therrien out. I am of the mindset that you play your best against the best, and you play your backups against sucky teams.
That's not the way the NHL works anymore.
I know, and I can't. That's what I'm talking about.
Right,
I can't stand it. I mean, that's changed.
That's fair. You have a right to not like it, but I'm saying
but it's changed in our lifetime, and to me, it's the whole concept of playing not to lose versus playing to win. I hate it. I
honestly think like in this instance, one, I think the factor of the home game was a factor. 2, the division game was a factor. I also think the coaches think, let's get the game that we know that we can win and bank it and roll the dice on the game against.
Oh, you're right, Mike. That's exactly what they think. And that has changed in our lifetime. That's all I'm saying. That concept was not that way always. It used to be that you played your backup against lesser teams and you tried to win against better teams. And that has changed. There's no question about it. I'm just against the change. Like maybe I'm old school or whatever, but I'm against the change. To me, if I'm a fan of the Canadiens, which I am, okay, but say I have tickets, and I don't because I live in Philadelphia, but say I had tickets to go see that game I'd rather see Montoya against Detroit and see the next night Carey Price go out and try to beat the Blackhawks to prove where my team is. If my team is really the best team in the world, I want to see them do that. I don't care that I'm seeing Montoya at home. I want to see, and Canadian fans are smart fans.
From the fans' point of view, I understand it, but from the team point of view, I understand what the Habs do and what other teams do. Other
teams do it. I know.
The other teams sometimes will say, okay, well, the team psychologically knows that they're going to have to play a lot better to beat an opponent like Chicago with the backup goaltender in. So it's a way of drawing out a better performance. And sometimes,
all right, I that's a decent rationalization. I get it, but but it's still, it's not trying to win. Like, to me, it's like, if I'm a player on that team, I want to go up against Chicago and prove that we're the best in the NHL, and I want Carey Price in goal, and we're going to prove we're the best in the NHL. And not like, again, Montoya played very well, and to his credit, I mean, to play that well after that Columbus game. Now I throw the caveat out there that some goalies just have some teams' numbers, and maybe I don't know, man. Maybe Montoya has an incredible record against the Blackhawks that I don't know about.
Yeah,
but. And then in that instance, that's the only time I'm fine with it. Like, I get that. I don't, maybe with is Ranta against Edmonton, I don't know if there's anything going on there, but they never play each other. But Montoya's he's been on teams that have played the Blackhawks in the past. We don't know what his record is. I'm sure we could find it, but I just think that I'm okay with. If that's the case, then I withdraw this. But if it's the case of like playing not to lose versus playing to win, I will go with playing to win all the time. Like, that's I don't know, and I think that's what you teach kids when that's what games are, right? So sports are, right? And I guess I'm crazy for saying that, but obviously you guys aren't responding, so I must be.
I said yep. I shook my head. I said yep. You're wound up on this subject, but I'm telling you, the rest of the league doesn't work this way.
Let's talk about the Rangers.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing about the Rangers. So what I'm noticing now is, we shouldn't be like shocked that the Rangers are doing well. We could be shocked at the record, right? The record's fantastic. But in the offseason, I found very few people that didn't like the moves they make. Yes, some fans were upset that Derek Brassard moved because he's a popular guy. Yeah. But most of the people out in the universe were like, you know what? These were good moves. Jimmy Vesey was a good pickup. And so for people not to think the Rangers were going to be at least a playoff team this year were crazy. But what I've been hearing a little bit in the media is, well, we expected the Rangers to take a big step back this year. The cupboard is pretty bare, and the cupboard's not bare. That's the thing about the Rangers is, now Jimmy Vesey helps, right, because he wasn't a drafted player, and so does Kevin Hayes. That helps the cupboard a little bit. But Buchnevich got added this year. He's a drafted player. Brady Shea got added this year. He's a drafted player. Obviously Miller from a few years ago is a drafted player. If you go look, a lot of these guys are still drafted players, and they still have more down below. It's not like the Rangers' cupboard is bare. They've done a good job in drafting, even in mid-rounds. Gordy Clark's done a really good job there over the years. What's happened here is that now they run those 4 lines, and they will run them at any time, and other teams have to match up against them. So when you get a team like the Edmonton Oilers, who really are not 4 lines deep, they have a problem. And last night, Grabner exposed them. Like, that line just killed them.
It's incredible. This guy scored 9 goals in 80 games last year with the Leafs.
Yep.
Could not hit the broad.
This is why I don't agree with what you're saying, Russ. I mean, Grabner, and their leading scorer is JT Miller.
Yeah, JT Miller. Yeah.
JT Miller is a good player, but he's a point every 3 games player, not a point a game player.
But he's young. See, he's starting to mature.
Right, and I mean, I think where we can be surprised is in the development of guys like Miller and Grabner. Like, I think that is not something we saw coming.
Grabner's just shocking. Like, Grabner, like Mike said.
And Kevin Hayes too, because I mean, remember, Kevin Hayes was a good player, but he was also, Chicago wouldn't give him the time of day, right? So,
but he lost 21 pounds.
Well, there has to be a little bit of luck here because, like I said, Grabner couldn't hit the broadside of a barn last year. He was basically a 0 offensive type of player. Like, in Stratomatic terms, he's a 1.
Yeah, for sure.
And this year, he's leading the league in scoring. It's he's back to his rookie year ways, and great, but. Somebody was bemoaning the fact that he scored 10 goals with the Rangers and didn't do this with the Leafs. I was like, if he scored 10 goals with the Leafs, they wouldn't have finished 30th overall. So I'm not upset about it.
Right.
Here's the thing.
But let me finish. The one thing that you have to be cognizant of when it comes to the Rangers, they've added 2 guys who are first-round caliber talents in Kevin Hayes and now Vesey for nothing, for entry-level contracts, and that is an unbelievable benefit for a team that, yes, I mean, they're minor leagues. They have some good prospects, but there weren't any like ridiculous, like over the top, grade A prospects that were coming along the line. There were a couple, but
well, I mean, look, Duclair was one. They traded him,
right?
Buchnevich was the other, and he's got scored goals in the last 4 games, so he is getting that way now.
But if I had sat there before the season when we were doing our previews and said, and I love when it is one of my least favorite things to do. But if I had said to you that Kreider would have 11 points at this point, Stepan would have 11 points and only 2 goals, Zuccarello would have 10 points in 16 games, you'd be like, the Rangers are in trouble. But the fact is, those players are like the 7th, 8th, and 9th leading scorers on this team right now.
Right.
But they're usually the top scorers.
But here's the thing: it's about matchups. When you put Hayes and Miller together, now Hayes has lost 21 pounds. Miller is maturing as a player. He started to mature again last year in the playoffs.
I found this 21 pounds, by the way.
And the thing is, what people forget about JT Miller is it's really easy to say, yeah, he should just be a guy who scores a point in every 3 games. But he's also a very physical and greasy player, and he's fast. And the combination of those 2 guys with that size and speed have opened things up for Grabner. Grabner didn't have anybody to play like with that last year.
Yeah.
And Grabner has the speed. That's the one thing we all knew he had coming into this. And so they found the right line combination because of the other youth and speed that is with him. That's really been the magic there. And that's something where it's not that hard to figure out why it's happening. I get to, we could all question why Michael Grabner has 10 goals and I'd be first in line. But I see why it's happening. I do. And Buchnevich now on the 4th line is a disaster for other teams to match up against.
Right. They have so much offense.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And that is, but that was not, Rick Nash again, who thought, he's playing well again. That's another thing. These are all
spoken up Rick Nash. I didn't know if that was going to happen. I would have been the first to say, yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen, but it has.
They've got players scoring all over the place. Right. And then also when we sit there and talk about Ranta, but the guy's 4-0 with a 2.05 goals against average.
But he's still the backup and they will play him against anybody.
But he's got a 938 save percentage. He's been playing very, very well.
He played great last year too. He did.
He's going to get his 20 to 25 games at the most. Yeah. He's there to spell Lundqvist because Lundqvist is the man, and Lundqvist is the guy you have to keep fresh for the playoffs. That's the same thing that's going on with Price in Montreal and with any other number 1 goaltender. I'm sure.
But when your backup plays that well, you're going to be good because at the end of the day, it does tend to be the backup goalies that put teams over the top because.
Well, back in the day, Glenn Healy was that guy for the Rangers. Yeah. But here's the thing: Ranta's got the attitude. Like I remember talking to him for a very long time at the Winter Classic, like 4 or 5 years ago, wherever that was, and they were playing. I can't remember what city, and maybe it was the Washington. Did they play in Washington? I think it was there.
One of the Blackhawks, right? Because
yeah. And I had a long discussion with him because he really didn't know if he was playing that game or not. But this is a guy that will always make sure he's ready. And he even just reiterated it the other day where he said, you know what? You always, as a backup, you have to prove yourself in every start. Like you can't have a bad start as a backup.
And he's a really competitive guy,
Yeah. And that's why he's successful.
My memory of him was, how pissed off he was to be in the Stanley Cup Finals as a 3rd-string goalie with the Chicago Blackhawks when the World Championships were going on in his hometown, and he wanted to be back there playing. But he's like, I got to see. He actually didn't want to be in the Stanley Cup Finals anymore. Like he just wanted to compete, and he knew he was the third goalie on the Blackhawks team that was keeping him out of the World Championships.
Right, and so he is ultra competitive. It does help, and so that's been really good too. So right now it's an early part in the season, but the Rangers do look that good. The Oilers, though, this is where if people want to say they've taken a monumental jump, you have to take a longer look at the Oilers and say, okay, the Rangers pretty much owned them last night. It may have been 3-1 in score, but they owned them.
Yeah, they did. And, I do also think we are seeing, we always have this discussion about this time of year, that we are seeing the Eastern Conference starting to take over the Western Conference.
No, I agree with that too. I do.
Which is something that every year we say it. In the beginning of the year, the Eastern Conference usually does really well, and the Western Conference gets stronger as the year goes on. For whatever reason, it always happens. But this year, it was a 3-1 game last night. It wasn't, crazy.
No, but Edmonton even though they were out shooting the Rangers for a lot of it, they just never made me think they were coming back to tie that game even.
Yeah. No, it was, the Rangers are a top team. The Rangers, Montreal, we have a few teams that are dominating right now. So, we get this, and that's what's definitely the case right now. I mean, they're putting themselves in a spot when you get off to this kind of a start, and you've got Lundqvist as your goalie. They're a playoff team. I mean, it's not. You're not even talking about. It's going to be hard, for them to, unless they lose Lundqvist, and even then they've got a great backup. So I mean, Montreal got off to the big start last year, and we were saying the same thing.
But here's the other problem, and this is the other problem for the Edmonton Oilers, and it's going to continue to be a problem. On one of Grabner's goals, he got down the ice, takes a shot. I guess it was on Talbot, right? Because I was late. I was like falling asleep during that game at times. I think Talbot was in last night, and he makes the first save. And there's Grabner to pick up his own rebound, and then the defenseman for the Oilers gets into the picture. You have to keep up with this Ranger team. You can't be that far behind. You can't be pinching. If you know that you don't have the speed as a team, then you can't pinch your defenseman against the Rangers, because that's what's going to happen.
Right.
Four of the 5 worst records right now are in the Western Conference. So early on in the East, it seems they have the advantage, but – I mean,
no, it's really true. I mean, right now there's 4 bottom teams in the West are really struggling. I mean, and that they just
game under 500 too now.
Calgary is right now a disaster zone. I mean,
what people aren't realizing is Columbus has only played 13 games, and they've got 16 points. They're only a 1 point out of a wild card, but they have got like 2 and 3 games in hand above teams ahead of them. So Columbus is playing that well right now. So they're 7-4-2.
Yeah, the jokes about John Tortorella seem to be waning a little bit, because that team is actually playing pretty well.
Yeah, I got to tell you, watching that Calgary, I watched more of the Calgary game than of the Edmonton one last night, and the Rangers just made the Calgary Flames look like boys. The
Flames are in so much trouble. I mean, they're a -20 goal differential.
I mean, it was an embarrassing game for Calgary. It was embarrassing.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to.
I mean, 16 games in to be a -20 goals differential.
I'm not going to lay the blame completely at the feet of Brian Elliott, because that would be unfair.
No.
Because that team defensively is not playing well. But they went out and got Brian Elliott thinking he would be the answer, and he clearly is not. And I could have told you that he wouldn't be. I mean, they have a lot of youth on defense, but they should be expecting more good defensive play out of guys like Giordano and Brody. Dougie Hamilton, I mean, his name, as you wrote about yesterday, his name is all of a sudden starting to pop up in trade rumors. And that's bizarre, because they what they traded for him, signing him to that long-term extension, he's making $5.75 million. Right now, it doesn't look like a good fit, because that team, since they brought him in, and it's not him alone, but they lost that mojo that they had 2 seasons ago, and now it's just, now they're looking for answers. They're scrambling.
Well, Dougie Hamilton is like a great player if you've got the other pieces in place, but if you don't have other pieces in place, Dougie Hamilton is a disaster, and and we've seen that with many signings over the years, right? It's unfortunate, because Calgary can't sit there and hope and wish they had their pillars already set up, and they're basically bought a nice tent without pillars. Like they have Hamilton's is perfect for them, or perfect for some team out there, and that's why the rumors will pop up. I mean, Montreal really
is the weird thing too. You're right about that, X. Sorry. Here's the weird thing. So didn't I hear Gulletson say going into the Ranger game that he felt like their team was at least playing strong 5-on-5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went back, and every goal the Rangers scored was 5-on-5.
No, I mean, they're not playing well 5-on-5 at all.
They're not playing well 5-on-5. Like, this is just what are they, like 5-10? I don't know.
5-10-1, yeah. 5-10-1.
It's an awful. This is bad, because you got the goalie and you figured, okay, now we should be better than last year, and now really in reality they are no better than last year.
I mean, the one fortunate thing about the goaltending situation is Elliott's a free agent after this year, so you didn't make a long-term commitment to him. But you've got that core group: Monahan, Goudreau, the defense with Giordano, with Brody, now with Hamilton, all locked up on long-term deals. And right now, not to say that it can't be reversed, because there's a lot of talent there, it's not working. And you have to, and you cannot fire Gulletson after 16 games. So either you just continue to go down this road and enter the Nolan Patrick sweepstakes, or you look for answers. But it's, the first 20% of the schedule is already done, and that team is second worst of the Arizona Coyotes. And people expected that of the Coyotes because they're a young team. Nobody expected this out of the Calgary Flames.
Yeah.
This is bad.
I mean, there are 2 teams in the NHL that have given up 59 goals, which is the most goals given up by any team in the NHL. This was going to be my number today, so we're getting right to it anyway. But can you name the other team without looking at the standings who's given up 59 goals besides the Calgary Flames?
59 goals.
Nope, Toronto's given up 55.
Vancouver Canucks.
Vancouver has given up 48.
So Miller's doing better than I thought he was.
Yeah, he's not the problem. Buffalo has given up 37.
What?
Wow.
They've scored 29 goals and given up 37.
Wow.
That's the thing that people don't understand. Buffalo scored way less goals than anybody else.
Yeah.
But their goals against is not bad. 37
it's
goals
not bad at all.
Games. I mean, 15 games, 37 goals. It's just over 2 a game.
Yeah.
But they've only scored 29 goals.
Yeah, that's crazy. And
which is like 11 less than the Islanders, who can't score anything.
I mean, is Evander Kane back? Like, other than a double minor, what is he adding to the team? That's the sad part.
I mean, that's the thing about that team. I mean, 37 goals is giving up 37 goals is nothing's needed. I mean, that tells you that Buffalo might be further ahead than we think if they can get their scoring going.
Yeah, the problem is everybody's out, and
but when people get back, so you still don't have it. So who is it?
Is it the Islanders?
It's not the Islanders. The Islanders are giving up 47 goals.
Yeah, tell me. I'm dumbfounded.
59 goals have been given up by the Philadelphia Flyers.
They were my next thought because they keep winning and losing games so closely. Okay.
And to make matters worse, Michael Neuwirth is out 4 to 6 weeks.
Yes.
Injury, so
the Flyers have scored 55 goals.
Yeah.
And given up 59 goals. So, the top scoring teams in the league, the Canadiens have scored 53. Flyers have 55. The Blackhawks have scored 54. So, I mean, the Flyers have scored more than any other team in the NHL.
So I have a question for you guys.
And given up more than anybody. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Number 1 in offense, number 30th in defense.
I wrote an article about them being resilient. They are, and they have to be resilient when you're giving up that many goals.
That's insane.
Here's the thing. So I just see a quote from Dan Bilesma that says, "Need more from Evander Kane." And so that is now your coach is now putting it all the chips. He's just come back from injury. They don't score. He has put all the chips back. Yeah,
you're right. And that's really, it's not the guy you want to be saying that about. That's really a crazy thing. I mean, when you look, there's the goal for and goals against are just fascinating this year in general. I mean, Colorado scored 27 goals. That's but they've only played 14 games. So you give them a little bit of break there. But then you go through.
But the Rangers won't stay at 4 a game the whole year.
I mean, the Rangers, but as good as the Rangers have been, the Flyers have scored more than them. Isn't that crazy? I mean, that's just like, I mean, the Rangers, no, I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong. Sorry. The Rangers have scored more than them. 65. I apologize. But the Rangers are 10 goals ahead of anybody else. I knew they were.
Yeah.
I
Which
appreciate
is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they've scored 10 more goals than anybody else. That is nuts. And so it puts the Flyers at number 2 offense, number 30 at defense. So
that's the Grabner effect.
So
yeah, the Grabner effect.
So here's the thing. There's 2 schools of thought here. We mostly think Anthony Stolarz will come up, but Stolarz is the kind of guy that needs to play games. If he comes up like last time and never plays, is that a positive, or would you rather have Alex Lyon come up where if you're maybe never going to use him, then he just sits there and does.
That's what you want to do. If I'm an expert at nothing else in the NHL, I'm an expert at the Philadelphia Flyers goaltending situation because it's something that I've studied in depth. And I've told you, I think we talked about on the show, that this combination was not a good one of Neuwirth and Mason going back to back.
You've said many a time, Eck, that Steve Mason plays better when he's the guy.
Yeah, he's the only guy, and so you're going to see that. You're going to see that over the next several weeks. You're going to see Mason. The Flyers' goals against will come down. They'll probably win a lot of games. He will come down without the pressure on him. And then Neuwirth does not play well when he's the guy. He plays well when he's the backup guy, and he's coming in off the bench. He's a great coming in off the bench goalie. And he's a goalie who can get hotter than Mason at times. So you have Neuwirth has the ability to do that. So that's why this is a weird combination, because Neuwirth wants to play more, but the more you play him, the more likely he is to either get bad or get hurt. And then, like he did here. And then Mason also, the problem is you have to get Stolarz or somebody sometime, because you can't just play Mason every game. Or they might try to, but you really don't want to risk him getting hurt as well, right? Because then you're really up the creek. So or maybe you aren't. I mean, maybe Stolarz
they bring up is going to get at least 1 to 2 starts. Last time Stolarz got 0. And I still think he's going to be the guy coming up. Lions started the last game for the Phantoms, but it's just one of those things where Are you helping Stellaris if he literally just gets 2 starts and sits the rest of the time? That's the big question.
Well,
I think you are if you're just bringing him up for like a 3-week stint. I think if you're bringing him up for the rest of the time, then okay, no. But you know, you don't want to play him you don't want to play him only 10% of the games if he's in there for the entire year. But if he's in there for 3 weeks to get around the NHL team, to get practices in, to get all that stuff, get a couple games, I think that's a good thing. I think they should bring up Stellaris. I think
after watching Philadelphia's defense play against Toronto on Friday night, you could have Marty Brodeur or Terry Sawchuk in there, and it wouldn't make a difference because
that was a bad game for them. But the Flyers really have not gotten good goaltending either. I mean, it's
and Mason played terribly on Friday. I agree, but especially on a couple of those goals, it was especially the Kadri goal where Delzato was caught flat-footed.
But Mason did steal the game third period on Saturday, like he did.
Yeah,
so
he did.
Have to do that sometimes.
And I think that is also comes with Mason now, knowing he's the guy and going and having that mentality every day that he's going in and when he knows he's going to play. And I think that you're going to see Mason. That's why I think that Neuwirth is the perfect goalie to trade.
But here's the thing. So Flyers fans were like, well, with Andy McDonald out, the defense will be fine. It's not.
Oh, boy. Hold on. Let's just stop that statement right now. I mean, that's just the craziest thing.
We heard that. But we did hear that, right?
Oh, yeah. No, but I mean, I don't know. I guess you can listen to that statement in a lot of different ways. Like how I heard you say it there is that it sucks that Andy McDonald's out, but we're going to be okay. But even though we're player, or you're saying it like sarcastically, we don't lose anything by losing Andy McDonald.
You gain $5 million of cap space. That's what you gain. Yeah.
So, but I think you're right. I think the Flyers are. The problem is this on defense. They had Delzato for a while playing really well.
Yeah.
Then he gets hurt. Yeah. This is 2 years ago, right? Gossespierre comes in and plays very well. You can't have both of them. And what's happening now is you've got both of them in there. They're the same player.
They're different now. They're different.
They are, but you have too many of these kind of players going at the same time. So like the issue is like they kind of detract from each other if they're in there at the same time. They both like to take lots of rushes. They both like to move up the ice. Manning's done a great job as he's been their best defenseman. He's done a great job, in there. I feel he's been their best defenseman. Provorov is going to take time to develop. That's fine. He can be forgiven.
McDonald's skating today, supposedly. So that will cause another problem because then do you dare just – if it were me, if somebody says, Russ here, you figure out these defensive pairings, Mark Streit would be the odd man out for me right now.
That's pretty crazy because, he was probably their best or considered their – and
then I would put Gostisbehere top power play. I'd put Delzato second power play. That's what I would do.
I mean, surprisingly, Gudas has been really good. Again,
he's been good. He's reined it back in. I think Mark Streit has been the weak link. I do.
Yeah, he is. He definitely is looking old, and this was something that was that's the way it was at the end of last year. So he came in though playing really well after playing well in the World Cup. He looked strong again. Anyway, but yeah, so I think the Flyers will be an interesting team to watch. They're only 1 point out of a playoff spot right now. So, and they have given up all these goals, but it's been a long time since the Flyers have been positive. I mean, you have to go back a long way, positive in goal differential. Like last year, I don't think they ever got back to 0, even though they made the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, and this year they've never been above it. So, yeah, they're still -4 right now. So there you have it. There's a really weird thing. I'm going to bring a blog on this tomorrow about how the NHL has turned into like 2 NHLs right now. You have like a wide open NHL and a really tight NHL.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it with some of the teams. Like you can see like those Sabres that like we talked about, 29 goals for, 37 goals against. But then go to
because all their offensive players are hurt.
But then go to Anaheim or go to Dallas, 44 and 55. The Flyers 55 and 59. There's these teams that are playing wide open shootout styles, and there's teams that are playing really really reined it in style. Like Minnesota's 41 and 28.
We should talk about that tomorrow because I mean
we will.
There's reasons for every one of them, probably.
There definitely are reasons.
I think tomorrow we should start off with the Dallas Stars because now with their goaltending situation, they don't have a hot goalie. They don't even have a goalie that you would even trust.
No, I know. And yet they're still in a wild card spot. Okay, that's all we have time for today, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. There's only one game tonight, so enjoy it. We'll talk to you later.